What's up, y'all? One Piece One Life here, and guys, I just feel like as a franchise, One Piece is up. We have so many pots cooking right now. We got the fact that season 2 of the live action is starting to be filmed, and we got some of the castings for, the Alabasta Saga characters out. In the anime, we've got past the whodunit murder mystery plotline with York, and we're now entering the legendary stretch of chapters where we cut away from Egghead. I mean, I just saw the preview for what Garp is about to do, and all I can say is, tune in. Of course, the manga has been cooking, and we finally just about finished Vegapunk's message, and we're out of here on our way to Elbaf. But see, for this video, we're going to be talking about how even in the supplemental material, Oda is cooking, because we're here to talk about my theories stemming from SBS 109. But before we get into any of these topics, any of these theories, anything like that, y'all gotta do something for me. Like the video, subscribe to the channel for more One Piece content just like this, and share it around with all your friends who love the series. Let's get it going. And before anyone quotes me on it, yes, I know I'm late. Yes, I know that other One Piece YouTubers have talked about it already, but this video was supposed to come out like the week after the SBS came out. But in case you hadn't heard, Houston got hit by a hurricane. I didn't have power for 4 days, so I'm sorry if plans didn't go, well, according to plan. Now, for those of you who don't know what the SBS is, which I don't blame you because a lot of you are not nerds like me, the SBS is essentially a question corner where people submit questions to Oda and Oda can answer them, and those are put in the back of the Tankobon volumes. Now, the kind of answers we get, it's a wide range of things because sometimes Oda will joke and sometimes he'll take things seriously, but we've gotten a lot of interesting and cool information from the SBS before. And this time, it's no different, because starting us off, we finally know who the Empress directly before Boa Hancock is, or was. Her name is Tori Toma, and she looks like this, standard Oda beauty person. Now, some people are wondering if Tori Toma is Boa's mother. However, I don't think that's the case. Based on the fact that I don't think Gloriosa is the Gorgon sisters' direct grandma, we can assume that the Empress succession line is based off of strength, or I guess merit, as opposed to, some sort of family inheritance. And that would make sense, especially if Tori Toma is revealed to be incredibly strong, because it's already been mentioned that the entire reason that Boa was made a warlord as soon as she came on the scene, even though she was young, was because they heard that she was the captain of the Kuja pirates, the new captain of the Kuja pirates, and they knew that the former captain of the Kuja pirates, now we know who is Tori Toma, was causing havoc up and down the Grand Line, and the world government didn't want to take any chances. Speaking of Amazon Lily, we also get some information about the love sickness. So it seems like love sickness is only cured by literally leaving the island to go and follow or be with the person that struck you with the love sickness, or I guess that you're in love with. And side note, did anyone else for the longest time not actually think that the love sickness was a real sickness in the One Piece world? Nah, because I swear, the whole time I just thought that Oda was playing up the gag to say that Hancock had a crush on Luffy. I did not think that this was an actual thing. So Oda even implies that in Gloriosa's case, the person who she was struck by was on the Roxas ship, which is why she was on Roxas ship, which means we can assume it was one of the fine bachelors on the Rocks Pirates. Some people say it's Rocks, but I think we know who it goes to. All I can say is hands up, Whitebeard got that dog in him. That's all I'm hearing. He had both Stussy and Gloriosa lusting over him. Hey, he's different. Next up, we get a little bit about how canon the One Piece movies are. And essentially, it's just confirming things that we already basically figured. Oda was essentially just saying that obviously the events of the movies and the overarching plots are not canon, because obviously there's no space for them to fit. However, there are elements of the movies that can be taken as canon. And he even gives a story about how this rode him into a corner once, because for Strong World, he had allowed the character Shiki to have the Fuo no Mi, or the float fruit, the devil fruit that allows you to fly, and he had never meant for Shiki to actually have it. At the time, he didn't think that Shiki was going to play back into the actual story, but by the time that he knew that he wanted Shiki to be canon, he didn't want the flow fruit to be his devil fruit. Everybody knew that that's Shiki's devil fruit. It would be too confusing for him to appear in the manga without it. And in some kind of weird reverse way, that's how Shiki got his devil fruit. But I mean, we already kind of knew all of this stuff, right? Like, we know that obviously the events of Stampede are not canon, but it's through Stampede that we learned that it's Laugh-Tale, not Raftel. So after that, we get a few interesting devil fruit stuff relating to Kuma and Bonnie's devil fruits. So for one thing, Oda confirms that you can't use Bonnie's age fruit to just keep de-aging yourself and try and cheat the system to like not die. You will die eventually. Damn, that was morbid as hell. I apologize. But yeah, it's just aesthetically, or not I guess aesthetically, because you actually feel like you're younger, but in terms of the actual years that you've lived, that's not changing. As for Kuma's pawpaw fruit, he confirms that he can only send people to places that he's already been to before. And I mean, I kind of theorized this back when we were seeing that chapter of Kuma visiting all of the places that he would eventually send the Straw Hats to. I mean, not just me, a lot of people guessed that. So just getting a confirmation here is pretty cool. And I mean, it just makes sense too. Like, how are you gonna go to somewhere that you've never been? And if that was the case, why not just be like, oh, I want to go to Laugh-Tale, and what, you just end up on Laugh-Tale? It doesn't make sense. Like, trying to think of it application wise, even if you see a picture of a place, I still don't see how it works, because a lot of things could have changed from that picture. You don't get a like true visualization of it. Next up, we have a character confirmation, and all I want to say is I was right about Alpha. If you go back to one of the reviews of Kuma's flashback, I forget exactly which one it is, so I'll just link it up here. I was saying that Alpha looks a lot like Califa, and therefore I think Alpha is Califa's hot sister. However, there was a lot of pushback where people were thinking that it was her mom, which I mean makes no sense timeline wise when you realize that everything that happened with Bonnie and Kuma happened like 4 years ago. And Oda said, guess what, Opal? You're right, because Alpha is indeed Califa's hot sister, as they are both daughters of Lasky. And that just makes you wonder, where is Alpha right now? Is she part of CP0 like her sister? Kinda doubt it. I mean, maybe she's still training, because what she did was kind of disappointing, I can't lie. Or who knows, at this point she even may be dead. I mean, she got her jaw rocked. Next up, we have another character confirmation, but one that is very, very interesting in terms of its implications. So remember back in chapter 11,000, damn, we've been here for a while, when it was mentioned that Ace defeated a warlord of the sea, and it was Kuma who took the place of that warlord. A lot of people were speculating on who this warlord could have been. Oda decides to just draw him up. So this right here is King of Lizards Hanafuda. And I can't lie, he looks pretty cool. He's got the hat and trench coat combo on, and it looks like his weapon is a combination of a sickle and a ball and chain. But this is where it gets interesting, because we learned that his hobby is collecting zone fruits, particularly ancient zone fruits, which when coupled with the fact that Hanafuda is a card game, becomes very interesting. Because guess who else's thing is zone fruits, and all the members of his crew are named after cards. Kaido, King of the Beasts. So here's my headcanon, right? This guy was a member of Kaido's crew. Heck, maybe even he reached the levels of being a Tobiropo. He could have been that strong. And it was up to him being the main one going around and giving everybody else their fruits. But then he had to leave the crew for some reason, and when he did, he was made a warlord instantly because the government knew the kind of threat that he posed, being one of Kaido's stronger underlings. And as he left the Tobiropo, that left a spot vacant for Drake to be able to come in. I mean, that makes sense, right? The Tobiropo weren't the Tobi Goko before, I don't think. So next up, we get a story, and turns out we finally know how the CP9 guys ended up becoming CP0 agents. So in case you forgot, which I don't blame you because it was a long time ago, or maybe you don't even know because you don't read the cover stories, but at the end of their cover story, it looked like the CP9 guys were like completely done with the government. They were just escaping, and the last time we saw them, they were like, well, by the time we come back, it's gonna be to knock on the government's front door and take them out. Well, it turns out that while that was happening, Spondine, Spandam's dad, was, quote, pulling strings in the underworld. And he formed some sort of group comprised of underworld leaders and former level 6 prisoners that broke out with Luffy and Buggy. So the CP9 guys apparently just busted the whole operation just themselves, hospitalized Spandad, and then came back into the government. I mean, not only were they reinstated, but they also got a promotion on top of that. I don't know. To me, it just seems like they're not standing on business. But then again, we have Lucci in that group. I don't blame them. And look, at least Spandan is now a useless water boy like he was always meant to be. Then we get some miscellaneous stuff, like we find out the names of some people on Bonnie's crew. I hope they're not dead, because they just seem like good guys. They were looking out for Bonnie, which was real kind. But then you remember that the last time we saw them was when Bonnie had to dip because Akainu was on his way. Yeah, it's not looking good. Oda makes a joke about why Mars, the Gorosei, is always standing when we see the 5 of them together, saying that is because he looks like a kid that forgot to do his homework, so he's standing outside, which is only notable because in one of the recent episodes where you see the Gorosei, he was standing, and I literally said to myself, why did Pal move across the room to not sit? Like literally, they walked into the room, all of them sat on the couches, and then this guy just stood behind the couch. I'm like, you look so goofy. But then we get the biggest news for me personally, and it's news about FUJITORA. So it turns out, Pal has just been traversing the globe with the Saijo Wazamono grade sword, one of the 12 supreme grades, which brings up a couple of things for me. One, this definitely confirms to me that he should be in the discussion when people are talking about top 3 swordsmen currently, because everybody want to talk about the Mihawks and the Garlings and the Ethan Baron v Juros, but nobody want to talk about how strong Fujitora is for real. The second thing this brings up is how we now know 5 of the 12 Wazamono great swords, since alongside this one there's also Whitebeard's Murakumogiri, Roger's Ace, you get it, Mihawk's Yoru, and just recently Nestro's Shodai Kitetsu. And also, side note, while we're on the topic, how has Shanks's saber Griffin not been named as one of the Saijo yet? It just makes sense for it to be. We've already seen it clashing against other Saijo. We know of at least 2, and definitely seen 1, because we saw him clash with Whitebeard, and presumably that's what he was using when him and Mihawk used to have their duels back in the day. And besides, let's be real, of all the characters that we have left in the show, if anybody was to have a supreme grade sword, wouldn't it want it to be Shanks? But the third thing that it brings up is the most important to me personally, because it has to do with the sword's name and origin. See, the sword is called Yakuza Kasen, and that's really important because it is the same name as a film starring Shintaro Katsu, the actor that Fujitora is based on. On top of that, it was made by Fugetsu Kisaburo, who he himself is irrelevant, but his name is very important because the Fugetsu clan ruled over Wano's Kibi region. So with these 2 pieces of evidence, it seems like the Fujitora theory that I made way back when, my most popular video on the channel by the way, is more or less confirmed, and Fujitora is in fact from Wano, because how else is he getting a blade forged deep in Wano's pits? If you take these 2 and add it to the evidence that I already put out in that video, everything fits so smoothly. It's like, it just, at this point, we're just waiting for Oda to confirm it himself. So yeah, guys, that was just a short video, but I really wanted to get out my thoughts on this SBS, and wow, Oda, wow, thank you. You're doing a lot for me. That's 2 things that I accurately predicted. Let's see how much more I can get. That's gonna be the end of this video, y'all, but please, before you go, like it, subscribe, share the channel around with all your friends who love the series, who love One Piece, or just anime and manga in general, or just me, who knows, maybe some of your friends may like my face. Remember, I'm trying to build a community, but I need your help to do it. That's gonna be all for me. I'll catch y'all in the next one, and always remember, One Piece, One Life. I don't think people understand the visceral joy that I get from being right. Like, the way that I'm able to predict things sometimes, it doesn't make sense. And by the way, I'm not even just talking about the series anymore. In my real life, the amount of times that I've been right about things concerning my friends is scary. I genuinely think that if I got $1 for every time that I've been right about something, I wouldn't need to be doing this. Not that I need to be doing this.